Hello, my name is JEdgarHoover. I was born January 1st, 1895 in Washington, D.C. I was the only living child of my Swedish and German parents who both worked for the U.S. government. I would go on to live with my mother until her death in 1938. I was 43 years old and I would live in Washington, D.C. for my whole life. As a young boy, I stuttered, so I taught myself to stop stuttering by speaking more quickly. Later in life, secretaries would have a hard time taking notes because I would speak so fast. I loved dogs, and at the age of 15, I always owned one. In high school, I enjoyed singing in the choir and competing in the debate team. At the age of 18, I began to work as a messenger for the Library of Congress. Working there trained me to collate materials which I would later put to use in my career. I attended night classes at George Washington University Law School and earned my law degree in 1917. I never married or had children. It was also in 1917 I began to work for the Justice Department. In 1924, I was named the director of the Bureau of Investigation, and I was instrumental in the founding of what we know as the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and I became the first director. The FBI is a large government crime-fighting agency that was formed to address both foreign and domestic spying. As the director of the FBI, I worked hard to establish institutional changes. I fired agents I felt were trying to become political, and I made all agents go through background checks, interviews, and physical tests. I received increased funding from Congress that I was able to use to create the variety of scientific methods to gather evidence, including two major investigations: fingerprint files and forensic analysis. During my time as director of the FBI, I confronted gangsters, Nazis, and communists. I also ordered illegal surveillance against suspected enemies of the state. While many know for my illegal activities, everyone was fearful of me and no one wanted to go against me, including sitting presidents. My abusive power allowed me to intimidate and threaten sitting presidents, and would be later in 1971, in secret, recording by the sitting president Richard Nixon that one of the reasons he didn't fire me was because he was afraid of how I could hurt his presidency. So despite all the harsh criticism from the public, I remained director of the FBI until I passed away on May 2nd, 1972, at the age of 77. I died of a heart attack. At my funeral, President Nixon called me one of the giants. I was buried in Washington, D.C., next to my parents and my sister, who died as a baby. It was after my death that many of the methods I engaged in came to light, including the secretive abuse of power, exceeding the jurisdiction of the FBI, harassing political activists to gain secret files of the leaders, and collecting evidence using illegal methods. I had a huge impact on our country's methods and proceeds for spying. And while I made more contribution, it was after my career that the government improved procedures to make sure that the power of the FBI was regulated better to have less illegal activities. Thank you for listening. I'm out.